Hello friends, you would have seen me in many videos doing reviews of various shows, but this is a different year. This is 2023 and I wanted to start the year with something excellent, with something very, very meaningful, and there couldn't have been a better way to take this channel forward, this YouTube channel of mine forward, than give my 32 years of experience as a football fan, specifically an Argentina football fan. I've been a supporter of the Albi Celeste, as they call themselves. And why now? Why make this video as a fan after 32 years? Well, I don't need to explain that. 2022 December 18th was that eventful, brilliant day, and any Argentina fan would swear that this probably was the greatest day of their lives yet. So I am no less, in fact, I am no less a fan than any one of the fans living across the world. So I wanted to make this video just to document my life as an Argentina fan, the things I've gone through, supporting the team, how it all began. I mean, in this day and age, nothing sells like something without a good origin story. So I'll be doing that as well. I'll be talking about the years when I was a kid and started supporting Argentina. Then I'll progress into the years when I was a teenager and then an adult, how things changed, what were the life lessons that I learned supporting Argentina, what were the countries that I traveled to supporting this team, what happened in my personal life, and how did they affect me as a football fan, and how did my fandom affect the people close to me, everything. And it'll all end with the greatest climax possible, the day I celebrated along with my family being an Argentina fan. And I hope I can, through these videos, probably convey exactly what my heart felt. And I'm sure there are many of you who are also Argentina fans, and you'll be able to relate to them. And every time you hear something on this video, if you like something, if you think you need to put a comment on it, please do put in the comment box below. I would like to read those comments. I would like to also make changes if there are any errors I've made. I've done my bit of research in whatever statements that I'm going to make, discussions of matches and so on. But despite that, if there are any errors, you can always come in and punch in and tell me. I will also ask you to please like the video if you like it, and subscribe to this if you like the content. So let's begin. I will be making 3 videos of this because as I started writing about this after the World Cup, it's close to a month now. It's January 14th 2023 today. Argentina won it on December 18th, so it's close to a month. And this month is not the time that I've taken to waste. It's a month where I probably every day have opened up videos, new videos, and enjoyed and celebrated, and it has never grown old. I've been enjoying celebratory videos in Argentina, celebratory videos in India, in Kerala, the team celebration, videos of how Messi is the greatest, and so on. So all this has taken a lot of time. It's not yet sunk in. At the same time, I've started writing about this, what I want to speak in the videos, and it took a good 12-13 pages. So there's a lot of content, stuff that I want to say. So I'm going to break it up into 3 videos. In this first video, other than the introduction that I've just given, I will be talking about the first few years, the founding years, the formative years as a football fan, as a fan of Argentina. And it'll probably end just before when Messi enters the scene. So I'll be talking about the beginning, Maradona and other great footballers who probably didn't make it that big as these 2 names, Maradona and Messi, but they were certainly big players. So then the second video, I'll be talking mostly about the growth of Messi and how my love for Argentina football just doubled, tripled, grew multifold. And then the final video, the disappointments, the disbelief, and the comeback, and whatever you call it, and ending in the ultimate climax. So let's begin with the first video. We'll have to go back flashback to 1990. 1990 was a great year for India. Many things, we went through a bad period of India almost suffering economically, and then returning in 1991 from a dungeon of despair. But 1990 was very, very specifically the most important year for me, because I was 9 to 10 years old. And at that time, though I was like most kids, watching a few sports here and there, nothing captured my imagination like the way football did, or specifically Argentina football did, or even more specifically Maradona did. So whatever, I mean, those are the years when a kid's mind is extremely capable of being influenced. And that is why, as I speak through the video, I'll be telling you why nothing has, probably made me fierce as a supporter as much as an Argentina football team. Not even an Indian cricket team, an Indian hockey team, or any sport for that matter. I'm You might want to call me less patriotic. I really wouldn't mind or bother or pay attention if India won the World Cup or not in cricket. So does it make me less of a patriotic? I don't know. But if it was Argentina, I would keep praying. I would be supporting them all the time. So yeah, it all began in 1990, and I was visiting a relative's house. It was in the northern part of Chennai. It was in Tiruvattiur. Uh, I hope my cousin, who will also watch this video, who's also a diehard Argentina fan, will probably have memories of this day, memories of this particular event that I'm talking about. And even to this day, we still share videos of Argentina, and we celebrated it together in different cities though. But we called each other and we celebrated, and we both had the greatest day on December 18th 2022. So he's 3 years elder to me, and we used to meet the cousins often. And so when we went there, it was just on the eve of the 1990 World Cup. And I had no great knowledge of what the event was or anything like that. But I had this sports star. The Sports Star by the Hindu was one of the most famous sports journals at that time. It was a weekly, and I, as a kid, after that, probably somehow got hold of that magazine every week. And it would be to just read about these great superstars of sport. And the main attraction, a couple of main attractions though. One was that before a big event like the World Cup, there would be something called the bumper issue. So it would be like a double issue, or it would be like thick, more than the rest of the weeks. And this particular sports star had a complete analysis of all the teams playing that particular World Cup in Italy in 1990. So, and the front page was obviously Maradona, because Maradona had just won the 1986 World Cup for Argentina and Mexico. And if you see this particular excuse me, this particular sweatshirt that I'm wearing says Campeones Mexico 86 Argentina. I bought this in Bombay a few years ago, and this is in memory of that. And this is one of my favorite jackets. That's why I'm wearing this. Now, I open the bumper issue and I go to the middle page, and the middle page, the centerfold, has a huge poster. That's another attraction of the Sports Star. So the center page, centerfold, has Maradona on the day of the World Cup victory in 1986, and there were different photo frames, different positions, camera live capturing him while playing on the field against West Germany. And the saying at the bottom was "moods of the master." Obviously, he was a little riled up in one of the photos. He was a little ecstatic in one of the photos. So "moods of the master" was that particular, and I just loved it. I mean, I immediately idolized him, and I started reading about it. I think I read the whole issue that day, and anybody could have quizzed me that particular evening, and I would have known everything there is to know about the Argentina football team, its history, the previous World Cup victory in 78 and 86, and how did he score, who scored, the hand of God goal, and then the goal of the century probably against England, and so on. So I was up to date within a few hours, and that image had formed in my mind that my guru or my god, demigod right now is Diego Maradona. So that particular evening, late night, it was the opening match of the 1990 World Cup. Imagine I am fresh with all this memory. I'm fresh with all this hyper elevated, love for Argentina and Maradona. And the guy is going to play the first match against a little known side called Cameroon. I obviously thought, wow, what a way to start off my dreams as a sports fan. I'm all set here, and we're going to have a victory, and let's hope they're going to win it again in 1990. Right? That's how it began. Um, I was so influenced by this man that a few months from then, since I was just 10, I was just trying to learn to sign my name, right? And I hadn't figured out exactly how to sign my name. I wanted to sign my name constantly, and didn't want to make a mistake every single time, so that people would say that, oh, hey, that's your sign, and I didn't want to make a mistake. So I was so influenced by Maradona and the number 10 that somewhere in my sign where it said MJ Raghavan, there used to be a number 10 written hidden inside. That's how I designed it. And why would I have a 10 there? I'm not a player. I am not a footballer. I am no way connected with any sport. I was not playing any sport at that time. But that number 10 at the back of his jersey meant a lot to me, meant so much to me that I started signing with 10 somewhere in the middle. Uh, this tells you that how early I became so affected. And people who have seen me as an adult when I've grown up in my late 30s, early 40s, I'm 42 now, and even like last year, there have been people who have seen me and obsess over this Argentina team. They'll know and they'll understand when I tell you these stories. So here we are sitting and we watch the match. The match begins against Cameroon, and it was all right. There wasn't much of domination from Argentina. I couldn't see him the way I imagined he would play. Obviously, 4 years had passed, and he was probably a little heavier than he was in 1986. And so the game wasn't as cheerful for me as I expected. But it went on, and here comes the surprise, the shock. Uh, Argentina loses the game. Roger Milla, the captain, I think one of the oldest players to play a football World Cup. I think it was 38 or 42 when he played, and he scored a goal. And I still remember, I'm sure a lot of Argentina fans would still remember, the way he went to the corner flag and he celebrated doing a samba kind of a dance, a nice African dance. I was irritated. I was extremely frustrated with the whole scenario. And here I'm supporting the very first time my team, and they lose 1-0. And I started learning so much about shocks and upsets. And that very first day I was prepared for the journey that I'm going to witness for the next 32 years. That just because you support a team that just won the World Cup and you think that they are the best in the world doesn't mean that things are going to go your way. And I think it was a long period of disappointments from that day forward. It was during the match, and I could sense that even the coach completely was in control, and he didn't let Maradona, this big genius player, to dominate proceedings. And it will always be the referee who probably always had control over the situation. And I remember a situation where he would call up Maradona and give him a warning and ask him to go back using his hands like this. So I knew that right then in sports, that you can be as big a player as you want, but you are not the man to make things happen the way you want, because it is a sport where you can never be bigger than the sport. You can never be bigger than so many people's dreams. You can never be bigger than the man in control, who is actually the referee. So those were important things that I learned already back then. The match went on, and I somehow didn't cry that much because it was my very first match supporting Argentina. But went back home, I think, and then I started watching the rest of the tournament. They had a few victories. I did celebrate a little bit. All these matches would happen very late at night, but I still somehow stayed awake. And I think that is when, as a 9, 10 year old, I started developing this habit of watching late night football. And when I got married, my wife was prepared for that I would be a guy who watches late night football, and that has kept me going for a really long time. The next match that I very, very vividly remember is the second round match. The second round match was against uh, great champions of the world and arch rivals and neighbors, Brazil. So this was a match I remember because I will talk about this again later when we talk about the 2014 World Cup. But at this moment, it was just me and my mama, my mother's younger brother, and we were just sitting and we were enjoying this match, Argentina versus Brazil, and it was just one moment of magic. And Diego Maradona creates a pass, and out of nowhere, this situation where he's almost completely blocked and pushed, he still manages to push the ball through to Claudio Caniggia, and Caniggia scores the goal. And that was a wild celebration. I remember the way I celebrated, and that is the first time probably I shouted, I clapped. Me and my mama, we jumped in joy, and we almost pulled the roof down because my mom, we used to live in separate individual houses, not flats, back in Chennai. And my mom and my grandmom were in the terrace enjoying a lovely breezy night, and they came running down because they just did not know. They knew that we were watching a match, but never did they expect two people to go crazy and shout like this. And yeah, I think that's when I first realized that there was so much of passion in me. Just like the way I got disappointed on the very first match when Argentina lost, I also realized for myself that I could enjoy and support and cheer something with so much of passion. It was important because I think passion is extremely important in life, whether it is something that you support or whether it is something that you do for yourself. Without that huge emotional outburst, I don't think you can push yourself to do something better. But here it was only supporting another team. Still, I loved that. And when we talk about 2014, I'll tell you why this particular event of me watching it with my mama was important. Uh, my dad used to live in a different part of the world that time. He was working, and I think he was in the US at that time. uh, so very strangely, we didn't have phones, we didn't have landline phones at that time. So we used to talk once a week. There used to be a public phone booth where he would call, or a PCO office, public calling office, and we would give the number to him. He would call us, we would go and speak. But otherwise, it was mostly communication through handwritten mails, and it would take close to 5 6 days for the mails to reach him. But we still probably had to write letters, and that helped me writing a lot probably. And when I used to write letters for my dad, it was not about something personally that was happening in my life or anything. If I wrote about 3 4 paragraphs, 85 90% or even more of that was pertaining to the world of sports. I would write about anything that I liked in sports. It was so strange. He never asked me why I was writing more about sports. He probably just enjoyed reading it. And since the World Cup was happening at that time, I would write descriptively about everything that I loved about a match that I just saw, and I would write it to him. I think that is when the writer in me was born. I mean, I for a while, into between 2009 and 2013, I was writing for this website called Sportskida. So I used to write sports articles on matches, various concepts in sports and so on. But the seed for that was sown long time back, and I think it was through these watching of matches and writing these letters that sports writing became something that I really loved, and it probably blossomed in me during those years. Um So after writing all these letters, we went on and we used to watch a few matches, and I remember some of them were really late. So I used to watch maybe the first 35-40 minutes, and then I couldn't. I was watching it all alone. I obviously did not have company to watch it, and I used to just watch it on mute or silent, and then doze off to sleep. Somehow Argentina, through penalties and so on and so forth, they came through to the finals. Some of them might call it lucky, but they ended up coming to the finals in 1990. It was a repeat of the 1986 World Cup. That time Argentina beat West Germany, but this time it was something else, something different. Throughout the tournament, my hero, my demigod, my god, Maradona had not scored a single goal. It was just this one assist that he gave against Brazil that was worth remembering. So already that disappointment was there. That man, I had so much of expectation about this man, but he never gave me the joy that I wanted, right? Barring that one match. And the only goal that he probably scored was in the penalties against Italy, I think in the semi-finals. So nothing to cheer. And the finals was happening. I watched for a little bit, and then obviously as a 10-year-old I couldn't keep awake for too long. I slept off. Somewhere in the later night I again got up, and I could see Germany was celebrating, and I vividly remember Maradona crying. He was this big meaty grown man, and he was crying right there, and I knew, oh, the first World Cup that I supported a team. It's okay, they came to the finals, but that's not how I was seeing it. I was like completely dejected and disappointed. I think I cried myself to sleep. But yeah, that was the end of the very first World Cup that I saw. Big disappointment, but I did get some life lessons as well. Then 1993, I think they played the Copa America. There was not much of a telecast of the Copa America back then, and I think that was the last senior cup that Argentina had won up until 2021. So 1993, I think it was Gabriel Batistuta who was the star again at that moment in time, if I'm not wrong. And I think they beat Mexico and they won it. There was no telecast, but I remember reading about it. So, but still, because I had not watched it, it was not something that I remember or remember celebrating. 1990, just a couple of months after the defeat of Argentina to West Germany, a brilliant event happened. And maybe that was what sparked that love for this tennis player, Gabriela Sabatini. Yeah, a lot of people might like her because she was one of the most beautiful sports persons ever. But I liked her because she was Argentine. And not only that, the final of the US Open, which happens in early September, just a few months, 2 months, 2.5 months after the defeat of Argentina to West Germany, Sabatini plays Steffi Graf, another West German, in the final. And guess what happens? Sabatini defeats Steffi Graf, and I'm sure the odds were all stacked in favor of Steffi Graf. But Sabatini, I think that's the only Grand Slam tournament that she won. She defeats, and it was sweet, sweet revenge. The same country that lost to West Germany, now a person from that country defeats a stalwart from West Germany. And I think I started supporting her after that particular tournament because of that sweet revenge. So that I remember very vividly. We then move past 3-4 years later, now to 1994 and USA. This was a very special World Cup because I think by that time I'd already gone to the US in 1991 a couple of times. So I liked that US was conducting a tournament, and the timing was very, very easy for people in India to watch, because if there were late night matches there or early night matches or evening matches, there would be early morning matches here. So much easier to get up and watch. So I love that. And what was great about 1994 was that Maradona was still there. He was still going to play this particular World Cup. So again, the hopes started building up They were just fresh from a Copa America victory. So I was thinking to myself, hey, this could be the one, right? I mean, like, okay, let's forget about 1990. Let's support this team. And there was Gabriel Batistuta and Maradona still playing for Argentina. But some of the other stars who were really rising and famous were Roberto Baggio in playing for Italy. There were stars like Romario, Bebeto playing for Brazil, and these were like brilliant players. So it was always going to be difficult. And again, very, very little memory because Argentina did nothing great in this World Cup as well. But I thankfully at least saw Maradona score a goal. It was against Greece, and I think it was like a ball that came somewhere near the box, close to his chest height, and he somehow uses his brilliant left foot, and he punches it into the goal. And he comes running towards the camera near the corner, and he holds the camera and shouts into the camera. And I loved it, and I finally have one goal to talk about. That's all I've seen because there was no telecast of club matches. I don't remember him because at that time he originally played for Barcelona for a year, and then I think he moved to Napoli immediately. But I don't have any videos. I don't have any telecast of matches to watch Argentina or Maradona play. This was the only time I could get to see him. So I was really happy, and I was just expecting that, yeah, Maradona scores. They have great young stars, so this is going to be the World Cup. But yes, next came the second round match, and I got a ball ready after having qualified for the knockout stages. They were going to play Romania. Romania, for people who are of my age, the last 10 years haven't been great for Romania. But if you remember the olden days of the 1990s or even early 2000s, Romania was a great side, and they had a great player called George Hagi, and he was called the Maradona of the of Europe, or so he was really famous, and he was an excellent player. Um, so I get up in the morning, all set up because it's an early morning match in India, and I switch on the TV, and here they are showing the teams singing the national anthems, and I had to really check once or twice because I couldn't see Diego Maradona in the lineup, and I was shocked. And there was no internet. There was nothing called a mobile phone with internet facility. I couldn't log in and check somewhere as to why there was no Diego Maradona to get some news, to get some understanding of why he was not there. Because more than what would happen in the match, I was first of all disappointed that there was no Maradona. So I continue to watch, and because it's early morning, the newspapers were not delivered yet. So I wait and wait and wait, and I see Maradona right there in the stands. He's supporting the team, but I don't know why he's standing in the stands. What had happened? Uh, the game goes on. I hear the paper boy delivering the paper. I open the paper, immediately open the last page, and I think that's where that habit started too. Even today, if you hand me a newspaper, I can't open the front page. I straight away turn the paper, go to the last page, and start from there. No matter what the paper, even if it's a business paper, and the habit comes from here because the last page is where the sports articles are. So I turn the paper immediately and I start from backwards. So that's what I did. And it was written that Maradona was banned from playing the tournament owing to use of a banned substance. That was shocking. I did not have any idea what a banned substance was. I just understood that it was a drug. I think Maradona defended himself, saying that it was just a nasal drop that he had to use before playing, but apparently it was a banned substance. So there goes another big disappointment. The very first World Cup, he played all the way till the final, achieved nothing. Here he was with just one goal, and he makes a Horlicks. That's how the British say. They make a Horlicks of the situation, means they make a mess of the situation. So he's made a Horlicks of his life, and he's banned from playing the tournament. And guess what? Argentina are not good enough to beat Romania, and they get knocked out of the tournament. Massive disappointment. and even bigger disappointment because the one guy who I thought was my idol hero disappoints me because of some stupidity like this. And that is why, uh, for many who watched football like the way I did, if you're not from Argentina and if you were not born in the 70s, I think for the rest of the people, rest of us, Maradona is always going to fall short of Messi, because it is ultimately about how you view these people on the field and off the field. And there has always been one disappointment after another, one stupid decision after another. I mean, that's his personal life, but it has always affected his game on the field. And I don't remember watching the 1990 World Cup and the 1994 World Cup ever celebrating more than those two moments out of an entire 8 years of World Cup was never good enough for me. Maybe if I had watched the 1986 World Cup, I would have had a different opinion. But that's why Maradona always fell short. And I immediately wanted to erase that whole thing in my life. And I stopped. And after that, I think it was like a slippery slope for Maradona. He was caught holding a gun to a reporter. He was consistently caught of drug abuse and so on and so forth. So that hero perished right in front of my eyes. I still, uh, you know, massively respect him for his game, but somehow I was looking for the next hero who I could support from Argentina. Uh, yeah, and 1994, we know that Brazil won the World Cup, and shockingly, another huge player, Roberto Baggio, makes a gross error of missing a penalty in that World Cup in the final, in the penalty shootout, and he falls to from grace, right from the top of the cliff. And I think he was completely hated as a player after that event. So yeah, 1994, that was all. It was then 1998. In 1998, I think I was just, an 18-year-old, and I had just finished my 12th exams. And for people in India, you know that the 12th exams are extremely important. And thankfully, the exams were out of the way, and I had a lot of time, one whole month, where nobody could ask me to go and take a book and read and study and not waste time. I was completely allowed to watch whatever match I wanted, how much of a time I wanted to watch. So being an 18-year-old, I loved it because I could watch all the matches. I even made a scrapbook of every match that I watched. That was the best World Cup for me in terms of viewing. I spent the most hours. I think I even got square eyes or dark circles because of the number of hours I put in. This World Cup was all about the Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo from Brazil, Zinedine Zidane from France. I was already in awe of Zinedine Zidane, though I was an Argentina fan even now. But I really started liking Zinedine Zidane, and of course Roberto Carlos playing for Brazil. For Argentina, it was these players: Ariel Ortega, Zanetti, Javier Zanetti, Ayala, Diego Simeone, who is now a coach with Atletico Madrid. Batistuta was still there. Sebastian Veron, who then played for Manchester United. So all these players were still amazing players, and Ariel Ortega was like the next big guy. I wanted him to really do well. So it all began, and I think they had a decent, run in the group stages. But the main match was between Argentina and England, and that rivalry was always there because of the Falkland Islands. I think the Falkland Islands is something that England took possession of from Argentina, and Argentina wanted to fight and take back the Falkland Islands, which is right at the tip of Argentina, and they wanted it to be handed back to them from England. I think that was the enmity, that heated enmity, the Cold War kind of situation was what drove Maradona into, playing that amazing game against England in the quarterfinal in 1986. So that rivalry was always there between the two of these countries. And it was David Beckham who was there in England. So this huge star. There was Michael Owen, who was this young 17-year-old who played brilliantly, and he scored an amazing goal. So I remember about the game that the goal scored by uh, uh, Michael Owen was amazing, and I was like, wow, young kid, 17-year-old scores a brilliant goal. Oh, we are already down, and then what happens after 1-1, and then they become a 2-1? There was a amazing free kick. It was not the usual free kick where the player tries to kick the ball over the wall and it lands in the corner of the net. It was a well planned free kick where it was smartly thought out, and they pass it on to somebody else and they score it. And it was one of the best moments because I never expected them to pull it out. If you remember the latest World Cup where Netherlands comes up with a master free kick right at the 99th minute or 100th minute to equalize against Argentina in the quarterfinal. Exactly like that. This was another brilliant move planned out. And they equalized, and I think it was going to be 2-2. Because I was watching the match on mute, I couldn't understand a lot of the commentary, and that is when I think I started watching sports. Despite whoever was in the room, I also had to make sure I never disturb someone. I think that continues to this day. Even when I celebrate, I shout, but only with the mouth open and my hands, doing this in the fists in the air without any noise at all, because I'm always wary of not waking up someone. So that continues to this day, but that began back then. I think I used to keep it in mute and watch the match. And I remember that there was this goal scored by Sol Campbell. Sol Campbell was at the 2022 Qatar World Cup in the studio, and he was this Arsenal player and he was this England player, and he scores a goal, and I think to myself, shit, the game's over. It's lost. Argentina has lost. But I haven't realized that the goal has been disallowed. And at that time, those days, there was not this constant ticker in the corner which showed the score. So nowadays, if it becomes 3-2, and then they would change it once the goal is disallowed, and it would go back to 2-2. So I would have known that the goal was disallowed. There was no ticker, nothing was said. It was probably said in the commentary that the goal was disallowed. But I think watched the remainder of the 30 minutes, assuming that England had won the match. And then I find out that no, England had not won the match. And so finally, Argentina wins that particular game. And it was an amazing feeling. Imagine the joy when you thought your team has lost, and then you celebrate at the end of the day, that shock that, oh no, they're still in the game and they won it. So yeah, that was a great victory, because that rivalry was very important. And then comes the quarterfinal match against Netherlands. Again, Argentina Netherlands rivalry is massive. Here is a match where I think I learned a lot about friendships, and why I probably always like to watch football, especially if it's my favorite team. I prefer watching it alone, because more the people, more the things that you have to hear, and nobody is there to support you or make sure that your team wins. They all come up with their own opinions, and it is never going to be in line with what you want. Worse, there could be people who could just tell nasty stuff to make sure that you are brought down. So I realized this when two of my very good friends were there with me, and it was a match between Argentina and Netherlands, and Argentina was doing pretty well until again another hero. I mean, this has been happening. Can you see the pattern? I thought that Maradona would never disappoint, and he would give me the happiness that I wanted as a sports fan, but he disappointed in 1990 and 1994. And 1998, I started supporting this young kid called Ariel Ortega. And one moment of stupidity where he headbutts the keeper, I think that was it. And then he was red carded, and then there was a penalty awarded, and I think Bergkamp scored, and Netherlands goes on to win in the knockout stage, pushing Argentina out of the World Cup again. That was a massive blow, and I cried so much, but I had to wait because my friends were there, and they were just enjoying the fact that Argentina had lost, and I had to wait for them to leave, and then I cried my heart out. I still get pretty emotional when I talk about this, because I remember how I cried. And that was the day I decided that when I have to watch something, especially if it's Argentina, I'm going to watch it alone. I'm not going to sit with anyone and watch it. And that happened to this day, all the way till 2022. So that was in 1998. 2002 was probably the worst World Cup experience, because if you remember, in Chennai, people who grew up in Chennai in that year, it was the emergence of 10 Sports. And 10 Sports was this new channel who had suddenly gotten backed all the rights of telecasting the football matches, and there was no other channel who was showing it. And suddenly all these cable guys, there was no organized cable like now what we have. There was these local cable companies, and they were dominating, and they would decide what channels to show and what channels not to show. If more people wanted Sun TV, they would show only Sun TV. And I had a huge fight with all of these. I used to tell my dad that somehow I want this channel, and I never got it. And then I think it was almost like a good 15 days before we even got the channels. I used to cycle a few kilometers away to a friend's house, because I knew that I don't want to watch it with my friends. But what to do? I had no other way of watching. There was no internet streaming, nothing like that. And it was also a World Cup that was very forgettable for Argentina, because in all these years they've never gone somehow missing on going past the group stage. But in 2002, they didn't even go past the group stage. They were knocked out of the group stage. So I probably understood that, yeah, I need to watch the games for them to qualify. So I have very little memory of that other than these bad things. Though at that particular World Cup, I was rooting for this guy called Pablo Aimar. And if you remember the current coaching staff of the 2022 Argentina team, Scaloni is the head coach, but there is this guy called Pablo Aimar right below him. And he was this brilliant player. And in fact, Lionel Messi says a lot of times that to him, one of the idols was Pablo Aimar. So you should probably, guys who have not heard of Pablo Aimar, should go check out his old videos. He was an amazing player, and I had huge hopes, but they didn't qualify. So that was the end of 2002. 2006. Now this is the last World Cup that I'm going to talk about in this particular video. It was the very first World Cup of Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi was 19, and I had no idea. I didn't read too much about him because I hadn't started watching a lot of club football, Spanish football by then. I just knew of his existence, and I knew that Maradona was talking a lot about Lionel Messi. And so this particular World Cup was all about Pablo Aimar and Riquelme. Riquelme was called the pass master, and Riquelme is an idol, huge idol of Messi. Messi used to love Riquelme himself. So this was the first World Cup I watched away from my family, and this was my very first year when I moved to Bombay, and I've been living in Bombay ever since. So I loved the beginning of the World Cup. I loved the matches. I remember this one match where Messi comes on in the middle. I think it was against Serbia and Montenegro, and he scores a goal too. So I think to myself, yay, a star is born, and I hope this is the end of all my worries. Riquelme is here, there is Messi, and so on. But what happens is that they go on and they lose to West Germany again in the quarterfinal. It was a tough match with the scores 1-1, and they get defeated on penalties. And that was the end of the World Cup again in 2006. So yeah, one more hero, Riquelme, and I think that was his last World Cup. So I had to again pacify myself, but I kept telling myself, okay, let's start focusing on this new hero, Messi. And in the next videos, I'll be talking about how Messi emerged and how Messi transformed my life as a football fan, right from 2007. We'll be talking about a lot of that. 2006 also ended very badly for me because I was always a fan of Zinedine Zidane, and Zinedine Zidane in the final does another stupid thing. So it's like I've been supporting these massive players and they go on to do stupid things. So he does a headbutt again against an Italian defender. He gets chucked out, red carded, and they lose out. But I did feel happy for my dad, who was an Italian fan, and 2006 the World Cup was won by Italy. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. So I think I'll stop at the right moment. Talked about all my disappointments, all my heroes who disappointed me, and I was still searching for that one big hero in my life. Comes Messi. It was still early stages, but I'll be talking about how even outside the World Cup, how I started loving Lionel Messi, watching his performances in the club football, playing for Barcelona. So if you've liked whatever you've heard so far, if you are a football fan, if you're an Argentina fan, go press the like button, subscribe button, put on comments of whatever you liked or whatever you didn't like, and I'll see you in the next video pretty soon. I'll be talking about the other moments. Vamos Argentina.